Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. We are here. We are back, baby. Hawks Media Day has just passed. Hawks have started training camp today, so obviously that means the basketball season is back in full swing in the NBA, and so our Hawks are back and doing their thing. So this episode will just be me. I was at Media Day recapping what I heard, what players were saying as we head into the preseason and training camp as we get closer and creep ahead towards the regular season as well. So appreciate all you guys for coming back to the Believe in Hawks podcast. Excited for another season here on the pod to talk to you about our Atlanta Hawks and see how they do this season, in a season of a lot of question marks, but also a lot of excitement as well. Before I get into the pod, just to remind you guys, on my YouTube channel, I have uploaded Trey Young, Zachary Richichet, Jalen Johnson, Landry Fields, and I believe there's someone else I'm missing. Pressers for Media Day. I recorded those pressers. They're up on my YouTube channel right now if you want to hear what those guys had to say in their entirety. I think the only person I've left to upload is Quinn Snyder's. So I'll try to get it up as soon as possible, obviously along with this podcast as well. So all my audio listeners, if you want to go to the YouTube channel to watch that, that's where you could go find that. But like I said, we're excited. Basketball is back, and we are here. So obviously I was able to had the honor of attending Media Day for the Atlanta Hawks. And it was a fun experience, I would like to say. First Media Day of my career. So really, really happy to go meet the guys in person and really, just kind of see the configurings of what a Media Day looks like for the Hawks. So obviously we talked to all the players yesterday except Cody Zeller, which I'll have a note on. Landry Fields made a note on that in his presser. And also an update on Nico, who injured his foot in the summer league. Got some good news for him. Actually, I'll probably go ahead and start with that right now and just say that he, apparently, according to his agent, is on the college Skyhawks. So obviously not college Skyhawks, the G League, the Skyhawks team. And so it looks like he will be with the organization in a G League role. Which was something I thought maybe could happen in his second year, depending if they want to stash him this year. An interesting point, Landry Fields, if you watch the presser, talked about how he actually mentioned stashing as the likelihood for him. So it was a little surprising to come back later and to see he went to the G League for the Skyhawks. And so obviously, that's big for him just to be able to stay here in the States and them able to work with him like that. So really big congratulations to him. Glad that he will be a part of that system that they're building down there in the Skyhawks, because, they take that very seriously in Atlanta to make sure they develop their players down there. A lot of guys have been developed down there if it came up to the main roster. Obviously, Ryan Smith was promoted to one of the main assistant coaches on the coaching staff this coming season. But like I said, the Media Day happened. Hawks currently are in Athens right now, starting training camp. So that before this, they've been doing OTAs. So really nothing super crazy, just some notable statements from a couple players, starting with Quinn. Actually sitting through a Quinn Snyder press conference, that man still does not answer any questions with any type of details. That even seems like the most harmless thing, he will not give you that. He is very general. Like I said, if you want to talk basketball junkie stuff with Quinn, he'll talk to you about that. But if you're asking for specifics, he will not give you that information. So obviously did not get a lot really from the Quinn Snyder presser. I know Brad Rowland, Locked on Hawks, asked him about, obviously with DeJounte being gone, how he was basically trying to get him to say, are there certain players that you expect to step into that role to help replace him? Obviously, Quinn, again, not wanting to say anything, basically just said, yeah, we just feel good about who we have and multiple people that we have. No names were dropped. So that just kind of tells you the epitome of a Quinn Snyder presser when we've seen it. How he won't give any lineups. He won't tell you a guy's going to get more time because of injury, even though it's obvious a guy probably will get more time. That's just how Quinn rolls. So that's the extent of that. But actually, Landry Fields, the general manager, kicked off the entire event. Like I said, he mentioned the Nikola thing, which he ended up going to the Skyhawks, it seems like, reportedly. And then also He says that he says that he likes where they are. He thinks that they're moving in the right direction. But he also acknowledges there's still work to do. So, but by no means, by no stretch of the imagination, does he feel like this is a completed job, which obviously makes a lot of sense. No Ray really feel that way about the team, but he's excited for what he thinks they're building. He wanted to get more size. He wanted to get more versatility, which they have accomplished this offseason. And so it seems like that he, for the most part, is in a good place with what the roster is right now. Um, somebody asked an interesting question to him. They asked him, obviously with the Cat trade that just happened a week ago, that shocked a lot of people. He was like, this person asked, would you still are you a coach GM who once you get into training camp, your roster is set until you get to see them on the floor? Or are you still listening to trade offers? And Landry was like, oh, I'll still listen. You'll never not listen. But I mean, I think for what I gained from that answer is that there's not a sense of urgency maybe, but like you'll always listen to calls because if there's an ability to improve your basketball team, you're not going to just say no. But obviously, he's made obviously mentioned before. We always hear about Hawks DNA. He says that we obviously have certain players that fit, what we want and what we like, and we have certain players who don't, and so we won't pursue those players. He talked about David Rodney as somebody they've been looking at even from when he was in college. And so when they brought him in with a trade, he's a guy they've been doing their homework on all this time, and they felt like in the summer league this past offseason or this past summer that they saw enough from him to warn, hey, let's see if this guy's available and go after him. So it sounds like to me, he makes it sound like they're constantly doing their homework on players around the league, players that maybe don't even draft. They'll still be studying if they like him or think this is a player who, if they ever were to become available, somebody that we think would be good here. And so obviously from that perspective, just interesting to mention that he's just constantly doing homework on guys and trying to figure out, okay, who are guys who fit what we want to do here in Atlanta, and who are guys that don't fit what we want to do here. So obviously an interesting point of perspective. I'm just going to jump around players instead of trying to act like I'm doing this in order. I actually want to talk about Dyson because Dyson had a couple interesting statements that he made after asking some questions. So first, one of Dyson's big goals this year, he mentioned, was to become first team all defense, all NBA, which obviously is a big goal if he was able to accomplish that here in Atlanta. I don't remember the last time the Hawks have had an all NBA player on the defensive side of the ball. And so it's interesting for him to already set these goals, because one thing about Dyson during that interview is that he sounded like a guy who is expecting a lot out of himself in year 3. He's expecting himself to take that jump in year 3, because he said, listen, because I asked him about where was he when the trade, like, well, not where was he, what was his reaction to the trade, and how did those first couple years in not Phil, well, see, I'm struggling. Y'all see I'm struggling. In New Orleans, how did they prepare you for your new role with the Hawks? And he mentioned he was like, it was 6 a.m. He was with the national team, Australian national team. And he basically was like, I got the call. Obviously, I'm sleepy, groggy. What's up? And then getting told, hey, you've been traded to the Hawks. He was like, yeah, like that was, at first you're shocked, obviously. I think anytime you get traded, unless you knew it was coming, you're going to be like, oh, okay. But he said he sat there, he thought about it for a while, and he actually became excited to come out here and the opportunity that was coming with this. And he said that, he learned behind all-stars, he learned behind veterans in New Orleans, and so he's excited to kind of come to Atlanta and expand his role and kind of show, which I think comes into what I was mentioning about him really believing he can have a breakout year in year 3 and really take a jump. Obviously, first team all NBA defense would be amazing if he was like that for the Hawks. But obviously, we all look at the offensive side of the ball with him and ask, okay, what is that going to be? He mentioned in his presser that he's been working with Kyle Korver multiple times in this entire media day. Multiple players said they've been working with Kyle Korver on their shot. Obviously, we know Kyle Korver has one of the best forms in the league and why he's one of the most elite three-point shooters to ever lace up some shoes on the NBA hard floor. And so NBA players for the Hawks have been taking advantage of Kyle Korver being there and working with him on their shot. He said he actually got into a bit of a deep with the mechanics, talking about there was like a dip in his shot. And there's like a certain way he needs to shoot it, get his elbow tighter, help him have a quicker release, things like that to help him be the best shooter he can be. So I'm excited to see what that will look like for Dyson this year with his three-point shot. If that is something that I'm sure for me, I feel like offensively, you want to just continue to see him be able to be aggressive. Quinn and that staff will encourage him to take shots and take open looks. And so it's very important that, hey, if he's improving that three-point shot, and listen, defenses are not going to respect Dyson Daniels at the beginning of the year. That's just how it's going to go. He has to make defenses respect him. So he's going to have some chances to get some open looks against teams and take some shots. And if he knocks them down early in the season, obviously that could mean defenses have to respect him at the 3-point line. That could create for other guys other opportunities because Dyson does have some point guard skills. He has passing ability. So then if people have to start closing out on Dyson Daniels, maybe he can make the right read, and that creates good looks for Trey Young, Jalen Johnson, Bogey, other guys, whoever he's on the floor with, to create and just help have a much more fluid offense that Quinn wants to run in Atlanta. So Dyson, and I actually chatted with Dyson a little bit afterwards. He made a funny comment. I said, you excited to have some wings now, Brad, instead of gumbo? He said, listen, I like gumbo, but I'm more of a wings guy. So I already knew right there. All right, this man had a core value for to be an Atlantean, which is loving wings. So that's very, very, very important to know about Dyson. Really cool dude, by the way. Really cool dude. Kobe Buffkin mentioned that he is ready to go 100% and healthy. He says, I asked him about what is something that he went into the offseason, like what was his plan? What did he want to improve? And he mentioned that he wants to show that he can shoot the ball at a high level. And he hopes to start showing that in the preseason. So obviously, again, Kobe knows consistently being able to shoot the ball will be very important for him. He's a guy who you can kind of see it a little bit with some of the mid-range that he does. But I think obviously being able to shoot the three at a high clip is something that he is wanting to achieve and have. Because obviously, if he's able to do that, that just makes him more dangerous to opposite player. We know about his abilities to drive to the paint, drive into the lane. So obviously, that would be big if he was able to start shooting the ball at a high clip. Again, guy I'm sure has been working with different people. Obviously, when you're rehabbing, you'll go through the process of being able to work on your game because you're not maybe able to do full scale, NBA activities, but you could do drills. You could do different skill things to help improve work on your mechanics, things like that. Because one common theme throughout this entire media day is a lot of Hawks players who talk about health. Obviously, as you know, they got a new head trainer with some new guys. A lot of guys come to the San Francisco 49ers. And so they're changing the training program, training staff, things like that. One thing that a lot of these guys mentioned in their recovery or just in terms of how they keep themselves up, weight training. That was mentioned a lot by multiple players in the gym, working, we're doing what reps. Bogey was a guy who mentioned it when he talked. He said, listen, when I realize I'm one of the best shooters in the game, I don't have to go out every offseason and just start shooting all the time. I already got that down. If I want to maintain my health, I got to make sure my body's good. So he said he did a lot more weight training, a lot more gym training to get his body right, especially with him playing the last two off seasons for the Serbian national team, doing different. So he's been having extended basketball outside of just the NBA. And Bogey had one of his most healthy years last year. So clearly it worked. He's continuing that this year. It also makes sense. Your head trainer and his training staff come from a football team. Obviously, if you're a football fan, you know how big weight training is. So he's bringing that here to Atlanta, saying, we got to get you guys in the gym if y'all going to stay healthy. So Bogey mentioned a couple getting themselves right. He pretty much was just like really excited about playing for Serbia. Honor to play for Serbia this past Olympics. He was the team captain of Serbia. Obviously, was excited about that as well. A guy who basically feels like that playing in the Olympics and just playing that extra basketball helps him stay in shape because he's consistent. intense basketball. Still get himself right, keep himself up. I think this transitions into the NBA season now, especially with training camp and going into things. And he says he feels really good. He feels like that he's in really good shape. Continue on as they move forward, trying to, we're trying to figure out if he's gonna be a starter or a bench guy. Both for Quinn and the coaching staff asks of him when it goes down to it for the most part. Talk to Trey Young. Obviously, Trey, feeling pretty good. I don't believe, unless I missed it, anybody asked him about his finger, but I think he said he feels good. I think he said he feels really good. And obviously you don't see any finger stuff on him. So assuming Trey Young from that perspective is good to go. I asked him about, obviously he's made comments about winning. He wants to win, right? And so I asked him, I was like, Trey, so obviously you want to win. So I'm assuming making the playoffs is a goal. Are there other things or different perspectives also along with that you also want during the year? And Trey pretty much was emphatically like, no, I want to win. That's what I want. Always want to win. He says, I want to be better than last year. He said that because if we're better than last year, then we're winning more than we did last year. And so, as much winning as we could do on a yearly basis, basically, from what I gained from that answer. And so, overall, I mean, I think, listen, he says that everything he feels like is good. He's ready to go. He's confident what they can do. He said he's mentioned he name dropped Dyson a few times about how important he'll be. A couple players name dropped Dyson Daniels during media day, talking about how important they think he could be to this team. He said he really liked Ricochet. He's obviously been working with him. You've obviously seen if you've seen his social media. He's been at Falcons games with Ricochet. He's been at up off the point from the point tournaments with him and Dyson. So Trey has definitely taken on a leadership role with this team, especially with a lot of the young guys that we have on this team. And obviously that's the thing. Trey's a veteran. He's been here for a while. Clint, Bogey, even Garrison Matthews, Gary Bird, guys like that, been in the league for a while. How are you helping the young guys? How are you helping them adjust to the game? Clint Capela actually had a very interesting answer on that too, because I asked him about that. Like, how are you guiding guys like Barlow and guys like Gay, young big men in this league? And he said, big thing for me is that I tell them my experiences and they tell me their experiences and we kind of exchange and talk about that. He also talked about just the biggest thing he tells the young guys is just be consistent. Just be consistent. Don't worry about outside noise. He said, if you're consistent, that's how you can stay in the league as long as I have. Is that I'm consistent. As much as people crap on Clint Capela, he's consistent. He gonna get you double. He gonna get you 10 rebounds almost every night. All right, he'll get you put back. So he says you gotta be consistent with your game. Obviously, with Mo Gay, that's probably more of a big thing for him with a guy who's just not played as much basketball as other guys have. But overall, still big for him to take on that role while he's here and everything like that. Quick point on Cody Zeller. I mentioned that at the top of the pod. Landry may have an interesting answer about Cody because he's the only person we did not talk to at Media Day. Landry kind of made it seem like in his comments that Cody Zeller, there may be still a plan to move him. Because he said he's been in contact or they've been talking to his team. Cody wasn't there. Again, Cody Zeller felt like one of the biggest throw-ins to a trade ever just to have salaries match. And I don't think the Hawks legitimately have a plan for Cody to be a part of this team. I think Brad Rowland also asked that question about Cody to Landry and just said, what is his role with the team? And that's what he kind of mentioned, like, we're exploring all options, we're communicating with him. It sounded like Landry feels like he will be moved at some point. I don't know how. I don't know if there's another trade they're trying to make. I don't know if they'll just trade him for nothing. It just sounds like a guy who they don't see being a part of this future and the team of the future. So, which maybe could open up the opportunity for a guy like a Dominic Barlow to be brought up to the roster potentially, obviously, because of that. because Cody Zeller's on a full NBA contract. So something to keep a lookout on, maybe over the preseason, going against the regular season, the Cody Zeller status. I don't know if he's been with the team at all either. I don't think I don't know if Cody's actually even been with the Hawks this entire time. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what that looks like with Cody Zeller, what that potentially is, his status with this team as we continue to move forward, going into the future. In terms of some health updates, Okongwu apparently isn't 100% back from his injury that he suffered, the foot or the toe injury, foot toe injury. Landry mentioned that he's close. Okongwu, when asked about it, kind of was just like, I'm working every day. Obviously, that's something that I think some people are concerned about because obviously we did not know this is an injury that would linger for him. Obviously, he missed the end of last year because of it. So hearing that that's still maybe something that he's not 100% back from could cause some concern within the Hawks or within the fan base as well. He seemed fine, but obviously we'll have to see when the preseason starts. Does he play? Does he not play? If he plays, then it seems like he's good, but they also could hold him out just to be precautionary, just to make sure he's good to go, make sure he's all right. So that'll be something to keep an eye on with Onyeka. Because obviously, like this offseason, I mean, if he's been rehabbing, it's not like he's had the ability to kind of, maybe do as much as he would like to do, I would say. So obviously, him getting back at full strength would be big. Because like I said, Brad also asked him about it, and he was just like, I'm working my way back. I asked him, what's his goal, to improve this season. And he basically just said his expectation, because I basically asked his expectations or what his goals were coming into a season change from when he was early in his career to now. And he said, no, he said, as long as I'm better than I was last year, that to him is a success. So obviously, like I said, hopefully he's healthy and ready to go. Also, Seth Lundy, says that he is almost 100% back and ready to go. Landry also said the same thing. He's also close. So they sounded like Seth's more like closer in terms of just actually giving some type of idea of where he is than Okongwu, where it's just like he's working. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Obviously, moving on forward through the process, and just seeing how that goes. I asked Muhammad Gay actually about what is one of the things he worked on this offseason. Again, trying to figure out, okay, where do you feel he went his growth? He said that when he was hurt, he really couldn't do anything. So all he could do was put on weight. So he said he was like 210-ish last year. He said he like 220 this year. So he's put on some weight. He looked bigger this year. I was just seeing him in person. First, also, when you see these guys in person, you're kind of like, wow, these guys are really tall. Also, Zachary Shea looked bigger too, just a quote. But he said basically he wanted to work on his defense, using his hands and his frames more effectively. Because he mentioned multiple times when we talked to Muhammad about just being better defensively, defense. He focused and he put a point of emphasis on the defensive end. He was talking about just being a better defender, because a guy who's like 6'10" like him, that's where his calling card really, if Muhammad Gay wants to be in the rotation, if he can play with that type of defensive prowess and energy, that is a great way to make him the backup four and keep him in the rotation. And so I'm excited to kind of see. Obviously, we saw what happened at Summer League. We'll see how he does in preseason. We'll see how camp goes for him. Obviously, very excited to see how he continues to move into year two, as he tries to, like I said, get into the rotation and make the rotation. Right? So we'll have to see how that goes as he continues to work. Taught to Nance. He says, obviously, he's been in this league for a long time. He reminded people because I've mentioned about Larry Nance being back up four, people have kind of gave me some pushback, but Larry Nance reminded people, I played only the first 6 years of my career. So he said I could do both. I'm not limited to one position. But he says he's excited to show the young guys the ropes. He said he hated playing against Trey Young, but he's excited to play with him now. Could potentially be an interesting lob threat for Trey Young in the pick and roll, him and Larry Nance. That could also be another reason why he could be in the rotation, add that threat with Trey. Because a lot of the players also mentioned just the playmaking of Trey Young, what that can mean for them. Obviously, Quinn and his staff emphasized to him taking more threes, as they mentioned to everyone. Larry Nance is able to hit threes, so be interested to see if he puts up more shots from there this year, and if he hits them at a high clip as well. Let's see, anybody else that I am missing? DeAndre Hunter says, I asked him about, how is he feeling coming into the season in terms of health. He was like, he feels good. The preparation is the same, and he wants to keep that up going into the season. He said when he was hurt, one of the reasons why you saw maybe an increase in his play, he hinted and mentioned it's because you're able to watch film. That's something also a couple players watch. A lot of film study. Watch film, see what other teams were doing to him so he could grow from that when he came back and could perform. Because now he's like, okay, because sometimes I can see it. When you're playing an NBA season, you're sometimes just playing. You're just hooping. And you watch film, but you're worried about just, okay, what do I need to do to beat this team? When you're able to get hurt, I've always said sometimes being hurt can be a blessing in disguise because it allows you to really take a look at everything and not on a game-to-game basis. It's like I could just take a look at everything as a whole and see what needs to happen. Is there something I'm doing wrong? Is there something the teams are all trying to do towards me? Okay, if they're figuring out this is a weakness of mine, how can I adjust that? So that's not a weakness next time they see me. It's like if you're hurt, it gives you an opportunity to get back on the floor and become a new person. So now the team that thinks that you're the same player you were before, that can change, and now they have to adjust to you. So Hunter said that was big for him, just being able to watch film and kind of see what teams are doing to him. They asked him obviously about him coming off the bench, and he said, I mean, the biggest thing, maybe the difference is playing bench to starter is just the opportunity. Obviously, coming off the bench, he's viewed more as a scoring punch, where in the starting lineup, he's just kind of, defensive guy who just hit a couple of shots, maybe. That's my interpretation of that. But he just said the opportunity was the biggest thing, realistically, for him. Vic Krejci, I asked him about what is his goal now that he's here with the team for the next 4 years. He said he just wants to establish himself and basically getting more minutes and firmly being in the rotation. Obviously, he's like, I've got the contract now. If I want to establish myself fully as an NBA player, I need to be in the Hawks rotation consistently. So that's something he's working towards. He's also another guy who mentioned working with Kyle Korver this offseason to work on the shot, work on the three ball, something that he wants to continue to improve. He said it's been a blessing to represent the Czech Republic. Obviously, as you know, this team has a lot of foreign players. He says he's been a blessing to kind of be a guy who can kind of be a face of that. He also said it was a great experience going to Atlanta Dream Game. Obviously, you've mentioned Vic Krejci has been in the city. He's been going to different events. He's been in his own apartment with his Hawks jersey on. So that tells you that he really enjoys being there and really enjoys being in a Hawks uniform. I asked Garrison Matthews when we talked to him about what is something that what is his value to the team, especially with the younger guys. And he said, listen, he's seen it all. He's been a starter. He's been a bench player. He's been cut. He's been, brought back. He's been in the G League. He's been everywhere. He says you have to play hard every night so you can be in this league, and he hopes to instill that into the young guys to help them understand, like, if you want to be somewhere, you got to put in the work if you want to find that success that you believe you should have. Keaton Wallace also talked to us today. Somebody asked him about his defensive. Why is the defense so important to him? He said him and Kaysen, his brother in Oklahoma City, Kaysen Wallace, they've had defense drilled into them. They have had just the ability, the effort. It's all about effort. And Keaton Wallace is a guy people have been excited about because of his point of attack defense, which obviously was an issue. So a guy who obviously, if something happens at the guard spot, you could see Keaton get some minutes, a guy who can play on-ball defense and some point of attack, and believes that they still should have a strong backcourt even with the loss of DeJounte Murray. Try to see if anybody else. Capela also had another interesting answer. He also got engaged this offseason, so congratulations, Clint Capela, by the way. Mentioned Dyson again, likes what he brings to the table. He says that they need dogs on defense, and so some people feel like adding guys like a Dyson, Keaton, Kobe, like, all right, we maybe get some dogs on the defensive end, Somebody asked an interesting question about, do you feel like that you guys had to blitz a lot more last year? Do you think you're going to do more drop coverage, which is more of Capela's strength? He said it just depends on who they're playing and how they're playing. Certain teams you may need to blitz more. Certain teams you may need to play more drop. He said it's hard to tell. Once we get into camp and go through some things, we'll see. But it could just be an adjustment to who you have on the staff, who you have on the roster, and a game-to-game basis on who you're playing. So that's kind of the big takeaway for him. So I don't know if I missed anything crazy, but yeah. So that pretty much was, I guess, a quick-ish sum up of Hawks Media Day. Really, like I said, really honored to be there. Hope to make this a yearly thing for you guys to be there at Hawks Media Day, so y'all guys can hear what the team has to say. Like I said before, if you want to see some of the pressers that have been uploaded, they're available on my channel, Bricey_2K. Go check that out. Subscribe, like the videos, show your boys some love. Obviously, if you want to follow me on social media and all my takes going into the season, that's also Bricey_2K as well. Support love any type of love y'all boys can give me. Anybody can give me. Obviously, they're in training camp now. Preseason starts soon, so we're about to start getting really into gear here on Believe in Hawks. Here, I have an interview with Steve Holman coming up in the next 24 to 48 hours. So definitely stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel for that. If you listen to me through audio, definitely leave a rating and review. Appreciate you guys. This is another Believe in Hawks episode. This is your boy Bryce Lewis. We'll see you next time.